wagon waits where the shadows lean, under the old apple tree. Moonlight spills on the grass below, her only witness, the breeze. She hums a tune they used to sing, soft as a memory sting. Stars whisper secrets she used to know, but time has clipped their wings. Under the apple tree she stands, reaching for a ghost with trembling hands. The nights they share.
On the 1st of May, after their last year together at college, Frank Ashurst and his friend Robert Garton were on a tramp. They had walked that day from Brent, intending to make Chagford, but Ashurst's football knee had given out, and according to their map they had still some 7 miles to go. They were sitting on a bank beside the road, where a track crossed alongside a wood, resting the knee and talking of the universe, as young men will. Both were over 6 feet, and thin as rails, Ashurst pale, idealistic, full of absence, Garton queer, round the corner, knotted, curly, like some primeval beast. Both had a literary bent, neither wore a hat. Ashurst's hair was smooth, pale, wavy, and had a way of rising on either side of his brow, as if always being flung back. Garton's was a kind of dark unfathomed mop. They had not met a soul for miles. "My dear fellow," Garton was saying, "pity's only an effect of self-consciousness, it's a disease of the last 5,000 years. The world was happier without." Ashurst, following the clouds with his eyes, answered, "It's the pearl in the oyster, anyway. My dear chap, all our modern unhappiness comes from pity. Look at animals, and Red Indians, limited to feeling their own occasional misfortunes, then look at ourselves never free from feeling the toothaches of others. Let's get back to feeling for nobody, and have a better time. You'll never practice that." Garton pensively stirred the hodgepodge of his hair. "To attain full growth, one mustn't be squeamish. To starve oneself emotional's a mistake. All emotion is to the good enriches life. Yes, and when it runs up against chivalry. Ah, that's so English. If you speak of emotion, the English always think you want something physical, and are shocked. They're afraid of passion, but not of lust. Oh, no, so long as they can keep it secret." Ashurst did not answer. He had plucked a blue floweret, and was twiddling it against the sky. A cuckoo began calling from a thorn tree. The sky, the flowers, the songs of birds. Robert was talking through his hat. And he said, "Well, let's go on, and find some farm where we can put up." In uttering those words, he was conscious of a girl coming down from the common just above them. She was outlined against the sky, carrying a basket, and you could see that sky through the crook of her arm. And Ashurst, who saw beauty without wondering how it could advantage him, thought, how pretty. The wind, blowing her dark frieze skirt against her legs, lifted her battered peacock tam o' shanter. Her greyish blouse was worn and old, her shoes were split, her little hands rough and red, her neck browned. Her dark hair waved untidy across her broad forehead, her face was short, her upper lip short, showing a glint of teeth, her brows were straight and dark, her lashes long and dark, her nose straight, but her grey eyes were the wonder dewy as if opened for the first time that day. She looked at Ashurst. Perhaps he struck her as strange, limping along without a hat, with his large eyes on her, and his hair falling back. He could not take off what was not on his head, but put up his hand in a salute, and said, "Can you tell us if there's a farm near here where we could stay the night? I've gone lame. There's only our farm near, sir." She spoke without shyness, in a pretty soft crisp voice. "And where is that?" "Down here, sir." "Would you put us up?" "Oh. I think we would." "Will you show us the way?" "Yes, sir." He limped on, silent, and Garton took up the catechism. "Are you a Devonshire girl?" "No, sir." "What then?" "From Wales." "Ah. I thought you were a Celt, so it's not your farm." "My aunt's, sir." "And your uncle's?" "He is dead." "Who farms it, then?" "My aunt, and my 3 cousins." "But your uncle was a Devonshire man?" "Yes, sir." "Have you lived here long?" 7 years. "And how'd you like it after Wales?" "I don't know, sir." "I suppose you don't remember?" "Oh, yes. But it is different." "I believe you." Ashurst broke in suddenly. "How old are you?" 17, sir." "And what's your name?" "Megan David." "This is Robert Garton, and I am Frank Ashurst. We wanted to get on to Chagford. It is a pity your leg is hurting you." Ashurst smiled, and when he smiled his face was rather beautiful. Descending past the narrow wood, they came on the farm suddenly, a long, low, stone-built dwelling with casement windows, in a farmyard where pigs and fowls and an old mare were straying. A short steep-up grass hill behind was crowned with a few Scotch firs, and in front, an old orchard of apple trees, just breaking into flower, stretched down to a stream and a long wild meadow. A little boy with oblique dark eyes was shepherding a pig, and by the house door stood a woman, who came towards them. The girl said, "It is Mrs. Narration, my aunt." "We met your niece on the road," said Ashurst. "She thought you might perhaps put us up for the night." Mrs. Narration, taking them in from head to heel, answered, "Well, I can, if you don't mind one room. Megan, get the spare room ready, and a bowl of cream. You'll be wanting tea, I suppose." Passing through a sort of porch made by 2 yew trees and some flowering currant bushes, the girl disappeared into the house, her peacock tam o' shanter bright athwart that rosy pink and the dark green of the yews. "Will you come into the parlour and rest your leg? You'll be from college, perhaps?" "We were, but we've gone down now." Mrs. Narration nodded sagely. The parlour, brick-floored, with bare table and shiny chairs and sofa stuffed with horsehair, seemed never to have been used, it was so terribly clean. Ashurst sat down at once on the sofa, holding his lame knee between his hands, and Mrs. Narration gazed at him. He was the only son of a late professor of chemistry, but people found a certain lordliness in one who was often so sublimely unconscious of them. "Is there a stream where we could bathe?" "There's the stream at the bottom of the orchard, but sitting down you'll not be covered." "How deep?" "Well, 'tis about 1.5 feet, maybe." "Oh. That'll do fine. Which way?" "Down the lane, through the second gate on the right, and the pool's by the big apple tree that stands by itself. There's trout there, if you can tickle them." "They're more likely to tickle us." Mrs. Narration smiled. "There'll be the tea ready when you come back." The pool, formed by the damming of a rock, had a sandy bottom, and the big apple tree, lowest in the orchard, grew so close that its boughs almost overhung the water. It was in leaf, and all but in flower, its crimson buds just bursting. There was not room for more than one at a time in that narrow bath, and Ashurst waited his turn, rubbing his knee and gazing at the wild meadow, all rocks and thorn trees and felled flowers, with a grove of beeches beyond, raised up on a flat mound. Every bough was swinging in the wind, every spring bird calling, and a slanting sunlight dappled the grass. He thought of Theocritus, and the river Cherwell, of the moon, and the maiden with the dewy eyes, of so many things that he seemed to think of nothing, and he felt absurdly happy. During a late and sumptuous tea with eggs to it, cream and jam, and thin, fresh cakes touched with saffron, Garton descanted on the Celts.
They could no longer live with their heads bowed, to breathe after having their names taken, their language erased, their history silenced. That was no longer living. The cry of one voice became the breath of hundreds, and the breath of hundreds became the heartbeat of a people.
It was about the period of the Celtic awakening, and the discovery that there was Celtic blood about this family had excited one who believed that he was a Celt himself. Sprawling on a horsehair chair, with a handmade cigarette dribbling from the corner of his curly lips, he had been plunging his cold pinpoints of eyes into Ashurst's and praising the refinement of the Welsh. To come out of Wales into England was like the change from china to earthenware. Frank, as a D.D. Englishman, had not of course perceived the exquisite refinement and emotional capacity of that Welsh girl. And, delicately stirring in the dark mat of his still wet hair, he explained how exactly she illustrated the writings of the Welsh bard Morganape something in the 12th century. Ashurst, full length on the horsehair sofa, and jutting far beyond its end, smoked a deeply coloured pipe, and did not listen, thinking of the girl's face when she brought in a relay of cakes. It had been exactly like looking at a flower, or some other pretty sight in nature till, with a funny little shiver, she had lowered her glance and gone out, quiet as a mouse. "Let's go to the kitchen," said Garton, "and see some more of her." The kitchen was a whitewashed room with rafters, to which were attached smoked hams. There were flower pots on the windowsill, and guns hanging on nails, queer mugs, china and pewter, and portraits of Queen Victoria. A long, narrow table of plain wood was set with bowls and spoons. Under a string of high-hung onions, 2 sheepdogs and 3 cats lay here and there. On one side of the recessed fireplace sat 2 small boys, idle and good as gold. On the other sat a stout, light-eyed, red-faced youth with hair and lashes the color of the tow he was running through the barrel of a gun. Between them Mrs. Narration dreamily stirred some savory-scented stew in a large pot. And a short, elderly, clean-shaven man in corduroys, seated in the window, was conning a battered journal. The girl Megan seemed the only active creature drawing cider and passing with the jugs from cask to table. Seeing them thus about to eat, Garton said, "Ah, if you'll let us, we'll come back when supper's over." And without waiting for an answer they withdrew again to the parlor. But the color in the kitchen, the warmth, the scents, and all those faces, heightened the bleakness of their shiny room, and they resumed their seats moodily. Regular gypsy type, those boys. There was only one Saxon, the fellow cleaning the gun. That girl is a very subtle study psychologically. Ashurst's lips twitched. Garton seemed to him an ass just then. Subtle study. She was a wild flower. A creature it did you good to look at. Study. Garton went on. Emotionally she would be wonderful. She wants awakening. Are you going to awaken her? Garton looked at him and smiled. How coarse and English you are, that curly smile seemed saying. And Ashurst puffed his pipe. Awaken her. That fool had the best opinion of himself. He threw up the window and leaned out. Dusk had gathered thick. The farm buildings and the wheelhouse were all dim and bluish, the apple trees but a blurred wilderness, The air smelled of wood smoke from the kitchen fire. One bird going to bed later than the others was uttering a half-hearted twitter, as though surprised at the darkness. From the stable came the snuffle and stamp of a feeding horse. And away over there was the loom of the moor, and away the shy stars which had not as yet full light, pricking white through the deep blue heavens. A quavering owl hooted. Ashurst drew a deep breath. What a night to wander out in! A padding of unshod hoofs came up the lane, and 3 dim, dark shapes passed ponies on an evening march. Their heads, black and fuzzy, showed above the gate. At the tap of his pipe, and a shower of little sparks, they shied round and scampered. A bat went fluttering past, uttering its almost inaudible chip, chip. Ashurst held out his hand. On the upturned palm he could feel the dew. Suddenly from overhead he heard little burring boys' voices, little thumps of boots thrown down, and another voice, crisp and soft, the girls putting them to bed, no doubt, and 9 clear words: "No, Rick, you can't have the cat in bed." Then came a skirmish of giggles and gurgles, a soft slap, a laugh so low and pretty that it made him shiver a little. A blowing sound, and the glim of the candle which was fingering the dusk above, went out. Silence reigned. Ashurst withdrew into the room and sat down. His knee pained him, and his soul felt gloomy.